Hi everyone, Peter here from Flow High Performance, and in this video we will cover how to train the triceps for maximum muscle growth. First, let's look at the anatomy of the triceps. This muscle group only consists of one main muscle, which is the triceps brachii. However, the triceps brachii has three heads. The long head, which is located on the inner side of the arm, the lateral head, which is located on the outer side of the arm, and the medial head, which is located underneath the two heads. The medial head can't really be seen in this picture because it is located underneath the other two heads and is somewhat interconnected with their fibers. So the long and lateral heads are the two most superficial portions of the tricep, meaning that they will be the most visible on a trainee's physique. The lateral and medial heads have similar anatomical structures. Both of these heads originate on the humerus and insert on the ulna, which is one of the forearm bones. This means that they only cross the elbow joint and therefore only act on this joint. The long head has a slightly different anatomical structure to the other portions of the triceps. The long head inserts onto the ulna like the other two heads, although it originates on the scapula rather than the humerus. This means that it crosses both the shoulder and elbow joints, making it a biarticular muscle. In terms of biomechanics, the triceps perform two primary actions, one at the elbow joint and one at the shoulder joint. The first movement it produces is elbow extension. This is when the elbow is straightened out from a flexed position. And the second movement is shoulder extension, which is when the arm is moved downward in front of the body. However, because of the anatomical differences between the heads of the triceps, not all portions contribute to both movements. For elbow extension, all heads of the triceps contribute to this action because they all cross the shoulder joint and pull on the ulna. But for shoulder extension, only the long head of the triceps produces this movement because it is the only head that attaches onto the scapula and crosses the shoulder joint. This has implications for exercise selection to train the triceps. There is one primary exercise category that is probably best to maximize growth of the triceps, and two other exercise categories that can also be secondarily effective. The first and probably most effective exercise to train the triceps is an isolated triceps extension exercise. This includes any exercise which only involves elbow extension without any movement of other joints. This is probably the most effective exercise for triceps growth because all heads contribute to this movement. This means that all fibers of the triceps muscle group will be able to maximally contribute to the movement. Some examples of isolated tricep extension exercises include cable pushdowns, skull crushers, and overhead cable extensions. Another exercise category that will train the triceps is compound pressing exercises. This refers to any movements that involve simultaneous shoulder flexion or horizontal flexion and elbow extension. These exercises will train the triceps, but probably won't be maximally effective. This is because the anatomical structure of the long head means that it produces elbow extension and shoulder extension. Because pressing movements involve elbow extension and shoulder flexion, this means the triceps will shorten at the elbow, but lengthen at the shoulder joint. So because there are two opposing muscle actions occurring at the triceps, the long head won't be maximally recruited and trained. However, the two short heads of the triceps will certainly contribute to pressing movements because they only act to extend the elbow. Some examples of pressing exercises include the bench press, dumbbell overhead press, and dips. Another exercise which may contribute to triceps growth is pullover variations. These are exercises which involve isolated shoulder extension without any movement at the elbow. Pullovers are mainly performed by the back muscles like the lats, but the long head of the triceps will also be involved because one of its actions are to extend the shoulder. However, this is probably not the most effective exercise for triceps development because the other two short heads won't contribute to the movement at all. This is because the short heads only produce elbow extension and don't act on the shoulder joint at all. Some examples of pullover exercises include cable pullovers and dumbbell pullovers. And lastly, let's explore some unique technique considerations to maximize development of the triceps. Triceps training is fairly straightforward, although there is one primary technique consideration we should be concerned with. This is the movement of the shoulder joint during isolated tricep extension exercises. As we established, the long head of the triceps performs shoulder extension as well as elbow flexion. Therefore, when we are performing any isolated tricep exercise, we want to avoid any flexion of the shoulder joint. This is because flexion will immediately limit involvement of the long head as it will cause two opposing muscle actions at each joint. This can easily occur during these exercises as it makes it a more biomechanically efficient way to get more reps or lift more weight. For example, when performing skull crushers, it is easy to let the elbows drift down slightly, which turns the movement into more of a pressing motion rather than a strict elbow extension. However, some extra shoulder extension is not an issue because the triceps contribute to this movement of the shoulder. For example, during a cable pushdown, if the elbows move forward slightly in the eccentric and towards the body slightly in the concentric, then that is not an issue. So trainees should perform isolated elbow extension exercises in a strict way to avoid any shoulder flexion and potentially allow some shoulder extension to occur. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this video. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already.